Hey y'all, it's Julia here. So I've been doing a little series of videos for yoga teachers specifically, or people who think they want to become yoga teachers, and wanted to share some of the information I've gathered based on my time as a yoga teacher, but then also as my time owning a yoga school and training new teachers and training also existing teachers for continuing education programs. So there's a lot of questions that I'm sure everybody has, and you should have, because whenever you're entering into any training, but especially your 200-hour training or your 300, 500-hour training, there's lots of questions you probably have because it's a really big investment, and then you're probably also considering, is this the right one for me? So I'm going to take you through some of the 5 questions instead of the interviews that they would ask you. What should you be asking? Not just asking them, but asking yourself. I got some weirdness going on here. Okay, fixed it. I don't have to look at this. Cool. All right, so let's go through the five questions that I think are really important for you to consider when you're taking on a training. And the first one is, and it seems, all of these are going to seem obvious when you hear them, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily thinking about them, or that enough people are thinking about them. But first things first, what type of yoga class do you enjoy taking? This seems like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many people fail to consider whether or not they'll actually enjoy their time of practice during training. So especially if you're doing your 200-hour registered Yoga Alliance training, you're practicing a lot. And a lot of hours are dedicated to the actual practice of what you will be then teaching. So if you don't enjoy that style of yoga, it does not matter how well accredited the program is. It doesn't matter if it has your absolute most favorite yoga teacher that is on the cover of Yoga Journal. It doesn't matter if it's on Bali. It doesn't matter. If you don't enjoy that style of yoga, if it's not something that you can do as a practice that you are stoked to be a part of, it's not the training for you. Second, what do you want to do with your certification? This used to not be as big of an issue because we didn't have as many types of teacher trainings, but the benefit now for us as consumers of teacher trainings, when we get to decide, there's lots of different types of teacher trainings. Some teacher trainings are specifically geared towards people that want to teach in a studio setting and either create a side income or a full income from yoga teachers, or yoga teaching rather. In a very traditional, I work in a studio setting. Some teacher trainings these days are actually geared more towards people who want to work with small groups or even just private clients. So you'll have a lot more in-depth information about what it's like to build a clientele list and work one-on-one. That may not be as prolific as the studio teach a class experience, but it's definitely out there. And then there's also people who take a 200-hour training, but they use it more as yoga study and lifestyle training than it is to actually pursue teaching. Not to say that these are all mutually exclusive. A lot of trainings you're going to get little pieces of all of it, but if you have a good idea of what you want to do with your certification, or even have an inkling or even a pie-in-the-sky dream of what you might be able to do with it, that's really important to keep in the forefront of your brain, especially as you're talking to the syllabus manager or the owner of the training or the lead trainer, letting them know, what are your goals? What do you want to do? They can help you decide if that's the training for you. And any school, any 200-hour training, any 300, 500-hour training, they would much rather tell you, hey, this is not a good fit, and lead you to somewhere that will be, than have you participate and not enjoy it. So be open about what it is that you want to do with your certification after you're done. Next, and this is more specific to if you're learning to teach in a studio setting. So let's say you are going to that pretty traditional, quote-unquote traditional route of learning to teach in a studio setting. And this would also be pretty specific to a 200-hour training, this question. The question is, will this training provide a predetermined sequence, or will I create my own? There's pros and cons to both. A lot of trainings will teach you to teach a sequence. In lots of different styles. That's how it works. It may be that the studio that is leading the training has a specific format on the schedule that everybody follows, and so you learn to teach that. It may be that the entire studio and system of studios only teach that thing. So if you are looking for a set sequence, especially if it's a sequence that you take all of the time and you love it, that might be the best route for you. The con of that is you may feel a little less comfortable 6 months, a year out, sequencing your own classes. So on the other side, if you take a training where they don't give you a set sequence to follow, and you're just learning how to sequence on your own, you may feel that right out the gate you have a few more hiccups, you're getting used to your own style, but long term you may feel more comfortable because from the beginning you've been using sequences that resonate with you because you created them. So there's definitely pros and cons to both. If you're already working and not working, but taking classes in a studio with a set sequence and you love that sequence, maybe that's for you. If you are at a studio and you love that the sequences change all the time and you are more into the surprise, the spontaneity, the variety of the way that they teach, maybe learning a way to sequence as opposed to an actual set sequence might be more for you. So let's say you absolutely know that you want to take a training. It's something you've thought about for a really long time, you're excited, but you're just not ready to take the plunge. You just can't get over maybe plunking down that deposit. One question that you should just ask yourself before you go ahead and set that money down is, are you willing to get comfortable with being uncomfortable? And I mean this in, yes, totally the yogi cliche way when we're talking about who we are on the inside and are we comfortable exposing those parts of ourselves? Are we comfortable with the self-inquiry? But before even that, are you comfortable with just the volume of work you'll be doing? A 200-hour training is not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. There is a lot of physicality to a 200-hour training, and there will be a lot of times when you're just totally tired and not comfortable. But if it's what you want, if it drives you, if you're motivated to do it, if you just are super duper passionate about yoga, that stuff, you'll figure out how to work with it. Not only is there just the personal drive and incentive to participate in this training, but then you also are with a cohort of people that are also experiencing at the same time as you. So it can be a great bonding experience. But getting a little deeper into it, there is the emotional and the mental experience of self-inquiry. And when you are teaching a class, especially public classes or group classes, there are things like public speaking skills, and that can be pretty exhilarating for people. It can be things like theming and talking about yoga asana, the physical practice, and how that can then carry over into a daily living practice. And for ideas like that, for especially themes and yoga philosophy connections, we're asked to study our own experience in it through the yoga philosophy. So we have to do the self-study, the self-work, so that when we do relay this information to other people, it's coming from a place of authenticity. It's coming from a place of, yeah, this is my experience with this topic, and here's how we move forward, and here's how it applies. So definitely getting more comfortable with uncovering whatever comes up and really examining whatever comes up during your yoga practice, especially during your yoga practice within the context of a training. And then the last question, and it kind of echoes the what do you want to do with your certification, but it really could be argued to be the first question you should ask, but I leave it for last because usually it's the hardest question for us to answer. And it's simply, why do you want to enroll? And you'll probably be asking yourself this over and over and over and over and over again. Why did I do this? Oh, I'm tired. Why did I do this? Or, oh my goodness, this is so much great information. Why did I do this? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Is this gonna change my life? Is this going to am I gonna quit my job? Am I going to go live in India and study 24/7? Am I going to throw the certification out the window and never revisit this stuff anymore? But why do you want to enroll is not something you ask yourself just once and then that's it. You should be asking yourself this over and over and over again. You know, why do I recommit to this training? Every day that I show up, why am I recommitting to it? You know, what is the value for me? And if the value of it is fleeting, my friend asked me to do it. Maybe that why will change, and hopefully it will. It'll get deeper and more profound. But if we're not in tune with our daily why, our present why of like, why is this sitting with me? Why am I still here? Why did I show up for all 200 of my 200 hours of training? If we are stuck in that past person why, and we're not really with our present day why, sometimes we can't convince ourselves to get over whatever obstacles in front of us. So keeping an ever-present why. What's going on today? Why am I still committed to this? Is going to be a question that you'll ask yourself right when you plunk down your deposit, on your first day, probably on the first day that you shed a tear in class or you just don't want to unroll your mat again. Probably also the day that you nail an awesome practice session and people are really enjoying the way you teach. Why did I do this? What am I gonna do now? So keeping that idea of asking yourself why, not with any preference, not to criticize yourself, not to expect any specific answer, but to be in that process of asking why, will keep you fresh. It'll keep you engaged, and it'll help you continually chart your course each step of the way. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Some questions you can ask yourself, and also some questions you can ask the people who manage the training you're interested in when you're ready to enroll in a 200 or 300, 500 hour program. Cool, so I'll continue to answer some questions for yoga teachers or people that want to become yoga teachers based off of my experience being a full-time yoga instructor as well as a school manager and continuing education provider. It's been a very rewarding job, definitely a lot harder than I thought it could ever be, but definitely more rewarding than I thought it would be as well. So again, this is Julia. I'm so glad that you tuned in. Stay tuned for more videos, and I love you. Mwah. Namaste.